my question into your answer, because my questions won't come on.
Sure.
You say
yes. Okay. Okay.
Did the fact that your workshop is in a third world country like South Africa hamper your research at all?
The answer there is largely yes and no. Probably the correct thing is to differentiate between my own private research, which I did for my doctorate, and the research that I now do for my company. As far as my private research is concerned, a large amount of it was to study the different ethnic groups in our country and compare them immunologically and in terms of their clinical disease. And this work I've had to present internationally, and quite often it's been distasteful to international people to hear a South African coming from South Africa presenting work which has a racial basis, but certainly in some areas it's been difficult to get my work published and to appear at international symposia. As far as the work done for my company is concerned, it's been a great privilege, because the work, we have outstanding investigators, professors, leading academics in this country, and the work here is of an outstanding quality, and our international principals are extremely happy to do work in South Africa. And of course, with the rand-dollar exchange rate, it's very profitable for our overseas principals to work here.
You have said that research results that find their way into libraries are all very well, but often have no immediate functional application. What is your approach?
I was very fortunate in that I'm basically a clinician, that is a medical practitioner, first in general practice, and then did work in pediatrics for 5 years. So my whole background was not laboratory work as such, but linked very closely to the patients which we treat. So I felt when I wanted to do go into research, I felt really that I needed to do something which was of immediate benefit to the patients and not totally academic. A lot of academic work is necessary in that it's, a lot of the clinical work that comes later is based on the previous laboratory work and the pure scientific basis of research, but certainly I'm privileged and I've been happy to do work that has had an immediate clinical benefit, I would like to think, for our patients in this country.
Okay.
Okay.
Everyone knows what you're talking about.
Okay. As far as future projects are concerned, I think that I need to divide my work into two sections. One is my own personal research, and the other is the research that I direct for my company. As far as my personal research is concerned, I really have found that what I've done up to now has posed more questions than given answers. I think it's true of any research. One of the important things which I'd like to do is assist in developing a better vaccine for infants. We're working on the whooping cough vaccine with the Center for Diseases Control in Atlanta, Georgia, and also perhaps understanding more of the mechanisms which cause the black child, the urbanizing black child, to develop such high intensity of allergic disease. As far as the work that I'm responsible for directing in South Africa for my company, we have an outstanding amount of new products in the pipeline, and we're very fortunate in that we have, as I have noted before, such a wealth of good investigators in this country, and we're very optimistic that we will be able to produce in a wide variety of illnesses, from AIDS right through to allergic disease, to fungal diseases, anesthetics, products which will be of use in the future and which will help all of us, our patients, to live a better quality of life.
Just carry on.
I think critically, Fiona, you've asked me to, you've asked for this meeting this afternoon. I think you just introduce Wayne. Yeah,
can you
say something?
I thought you would just give me a little preempt. Can we start again?
Okay, yes, go.
Yeah.
Can I start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Matt, Wayne is here to present the results of his acute and subacute dose finding studies.
Thanks, Wayne. You've come a long way, huh?
Yes, well, it's important data, Matt. Let's show you what we found here. If you can have a look at this particular figure, the relevant factors are that nebivolol actually decreases heart rate and blood pressure both at rest and during exercise on all 4 doses.
The lowest dose, Wayne, that you tried was?
The lowest dose that we tried was 1 milligram, and we found significantly lowered diastolic and systolic blood pressure on that dose.
And the highest dose I see you tried was 10 milligrams.
10 milligrams, and we found it to be reduced by 20% on 10 milligrams.
Peter, do you think that dose is adequate?
I don't know, this was a single dose study, was it?
This was the subacute dose finding study.
Oh, right.
Now, what dosage do you think you will need for the future in the chronic studies?
Well, on grounds of this diagram over here, having a look at the heart rate and the systolic and diastolic blood pressure, I think it's going to be 10 milligrams, where it's statistically significant in all three variables. So I think we'll have to use that dose for the future study.
And do you think 10 milligrams won't give any significant toxic effects?
No, I think if we have a look at the side effect profile, we'll find that the guys tolerated this very well, and I don't think we'll run into any problems with that dose.
Well, that's super. And what about the diastolic blood pressure over a 3-week period?
Well, you can see here that on all 4 doses of the medication, it drops significantly on day 2 and then stays at that level, and there's no further drop, there's no tolerance built up to that dose.
Is that a problem, tolerance or tachyphylaxis, usually with this class of drug, in your experience as a clinician?
No, not really. The acute dose is the main thing. That is the dose that knocks down the blood pressure. Then there's a slight tolerance build up on the second day, but then we find that it continues at that level.
Fiona, are you happy with the design of the trial?
Yes.
I think we worked fairly hard at the design. I think these results are fairly significant. I think really what it says to us is that we should carry on with the development of this drug. Don't you think so, Wayne? You've done a great job.
Well, I hope so. I think looking at this now on prolonged exercise and looking at the effect on maximal exercise, we know our dose, and I think we must just go ahead with those other trials.
And you have an outstanding unit in Cape Town with Professor Noakes, a very well-known unit, so we're very fortunate that we can work together with you.
Yes, we have a good unit, and hopefully the results are going to be very good.
Thank you, Wayne, for coming.
Thanks, mate.
But most of these entertainers are like that.
I suppose.
In
Eugenig,
as what?
as
A GP?
Yeah. And
Tonight's tribute is to young leaders and their work in the community. And I think that you tonight are going to see faces of the future. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Roy Paulson, the Deputy Managing Director of Times Media. Roy Paulson.
What is unique about this particular awards ceremony are the points that Derek made, that it's for people who generally are up and coming, are between the ages of 18 and 40. And I think this is the type of thing that we certainly in our organization would be very, very interested in continuing with, and certainly J&B can be sure that, and I'm sure Nigel Bruce will agree, that it's something that we will support well into the future.
To design and make a trophy like the Rare Achievers Award is always an exciting and challenging project. Especially challenging because it has to represent such a wide and diverse spectrum of disciplines, such as art, sport, science, etc. The concept consists of a spectrum of archetypal symbols represented in the disc, which portrays the symbol of the sun, which again is the source of life and represents the ultimate wholeness of man. The disc, or discus, is a shape that stands for sporting achievement and at the same time is shaped as a lens representing scientific endeavors. The square, the triangle, the dot, the horizontal, the vertical, the wave, the cross, the zigzag, all these symbols are crystallized in a creative condensation for this trophy and obey a system which develops out of a single point and expands into a complexity and with shape, rhythm, quantity, position, order, and direction all help to explain and define the pattern. The composition is expressing the intimate and intense relationship between man's motivating force behind change and his testimony of a state of mind, as man is quite incapable of creating anything which does not bear the marks of his subtle and all-embracing need for communication, linking spirit and matter.
When I was thinking about what I had to say, the first thing I asked myself is really, what does achievement mean, and what does it mean to achieve? And the dictionary told me that it means to carry out successfully or to successfully reach a goal. But I think the next pertinent question is, why are there achievers and non-achievers? There have been various studies about this, and some of the yardsticks or measurements on books that I've read certainly say that some of the yardsticks are innovation, which Nigel mentioned, simplification of difficult procedures, vision, an ability to translate vision into reality, leadership quality, and the ability to market one's concept. Because after all, if one has a concept and doesn't market it, one has nothing. It's also said that people who are achievers are lucky, and they achieve as a matter of luck. But it's extraordinary how, when one is asked that question, you see it's usually the answer is given as a matter of luck by a person who's a failure. And victory, as we all know, has 100 fathers, but defeat is always an orphan.
The nominees in the art category are Andrew Buerta,
Victor. Michael Petit.
And the winner is Diane Victor.
Last year, the coveted Volkskas Atelier Award went to talented young artist Diane Victor. At 23, the youngest ever recipient of the prize. Her reward was an opportunity to study at the Cité des Arts in Paris, where she says she not only improved her artistic abilities, but also gained an insight into the lifestyles of fellow students from all over the world. During her stay, her work was accepted for the Monte Carlo International Art Exhibition and the Paris Triad Graphics Exhibition, in which she was South Africa's sole representative.
What I have planned for the immediate future is I owe the South African Arts Association an exhibition in part of the contract for winning this award. After that, I'm intending to do my master's. I'm not very sure I'm going to do it yet, but at the same time, just keep drawing. I'm doing etchings for as long as I possibly can afford to.
Black accountants are few and far between in South Africa, but 28-year-old Albert Mokoena has made his mark in his profession by being appointed chief accountant of the South African subsidiary of the International Munich Reinsurance Group. His ability was obvious from his early student days. He won a scholarship from the American company IBM to study commerce at the University of the North and gained a BCom accounting degree in the shortest possible time.
The message I have for aspiring businessmen like me would be really to know oneself. They should know who they are, okay, and not hide behind racism all the time. Look for sympathy, just not want to do things right because they should be perceived as black, because business is business, you know, and I mean, they want you to do their things right all the time. And unless they are able to identify that you cannot succeed unless you work very hard, I don't see how they can make it.
Social worker Nomini Segovo is dedicated to upgrading the quality of life in Langa and KwaNobuhle townships in the Eastern Cape. Her work with the mentally retarded gave her an insight into just how much she had to learn, and she successfully applied for a scholarship which sent her to Atlanta University, Georgia in the United States. When she returned to South Africa, she had gained the knowledge to establish a self-help and resource exchange known as SHARE, which encourages township communities to think of themselves as participants in solutions to problems instead of the victims of poverty and lack of opportunity.
I see a lot of challenge in our situation, South African situation, with all these new developments going on, and I think that it's up to us, the black people, to get there and also be ready to take part in the new South Africa. You know, otherwise, if you're just sitting there, you know, we'll miss the opportunity again.
Musicians Johannes Kerkorrel and the Gereformeerde Blues Band are still flying high after their recent controversial but highly popular Full Vrye Tour, comprising 20 concerts in 13 centres around the country. Students on both Afrikaans and English campuses showed their support for the progressive theme of the songs, which the band try to use as a tool for shaping a more open South African culture, incorporating respect and dignity for all. Johannes was a journalist working for Die Burger in Cape Town and Report in Johannesburg before beginning his stage career. He found media censorship unacceptable and so began writing satirical songs to express his political and social views. Performing in alternative Afrikaans cabaret, he soon began to reach a large audience and to team up with other musicians.
I decided to give up journalism because it wasn't really all that interesting for me anymore. Also, I found it very limiting. There were lots of things that you couldn't say, couldn't write. You always came up against lots of rules and regulations about what you could say and could not say. I felt I could say far more serious things on the stage. I found a lot more freedom on the stage, and basically what I'm now doing is just being a journalist, but in the form of a singer and an entertainer.
Journalist Don Caldwell set out to show that controversial political debate can be as much fun to read as a novel. His recent publication, entitled South Africa, the New Revolution, seems to bear out this theory. It contains something to entertain, challenge and offend almost everyone. The book claims that destructive government involvement in the economy and people's lives is what is keeping South Africa poor. American-born Don came to Southern Africa as a starry-eyed Peace Corps volunteer and is now addicted to the people, the land and the challenges. He has gained broad journalistic experience in both the United States and South Africa. At 28, he's the managing director of Frontline magazine.
I think what motivates me to get involved in journalism and writing is that I consider myself a freedom fighter, but a freedom fighter who won't pick up guns. So my only weapons are ideas and words. And I try to go around and convince people that if they want to fight for freedom, the way to do it is to build a consensus of people who support common values, free enterprise, limited government, individual liberty. And I think if we can build that kind of a constituency, that kind of a consensus, then there's great hope for ushering in freedom.
Hi. My accent's a bit different from the accent of some of the other winners, but I'm totally humbled by the award. And the people that I share the award with, I think, show that there's, in South Africa, a nation of achievers, and I look forward to the day where we can tap the 30 million black potential achievers in South Africa that have been held down by the rules and regulations, and then we can have a huge banquet to celebrate freedom. Thanks a lot.
Cyril Ramaphosa has instigated many changes and reforms since he became the first General Secretary of the National Union of Mine Workers in 1982. This year, he's emerged as a key figure in the mass democratic movement and is highly influential in COSATU as a whole. He says the gains and achievements over the years have not been his alone, but those of the hundreds of thousands of union members. His experience has taught him that meaningful and constructive negotiations can and do take place between different parties with a surprising amount of success.
We happen to be living in exciting times, politically, socially, and economically. And I think in the short term, we need to move ahead and show people that change is inevitable in our country. People have to understand that this country is going to have to change and move in a different direction. And what we have to do is to impress upon the government that to bring about that change in a peaceful way is in the interest of everyone in this country.
As we said, Cyril Ramaphosa could not be with us tonight, but I'm sure he'd be delighted to get this award and to hear your applause tonight.
Matt Haus is the head of medical research, development and regulatory affairs at Janssen Pharmaceutica South Africa. He established and heads both the Janssen Research Foundation and Council South Africa. Under his guidance, these organizations have rapidly established one of the largest clinical research programs in the country and encouraged international research cooperation, channeling millions of rands of offshore capital into South African academic institutions. Matt is an elected council member of the South African College of Medicine and a member of the Faculty of Pediatrics for this body, for which he is an examiner. A man of many talents, Matt Haus has written a book and even hit songs for our local artists.
We have an outstanding amount of new products in the pipeline, and we're very fortunate in that we have, as I have noted before, such a wealth of good investigators in this country, and we're very optimistic that we will be able to produce in a wide variety of illnesses, from AIDS right through to allergic disease, to fungal diseases, anesthetics, products which will be of use in the future and which will help all of us, our patients, to live a better quality of life.
Many experts believe no woman could break a 6-hour time barrier in the Comrades Marathon. But this year, Frith van der Merwe crossed the line in a record 5 hours, 54 minutes, 43 seconds. She's made her mark in South African road running in a very short time, first hitting the headlines in 1988 by winning the Johnson Crane Marathon. This year, she ran so well in the Two Oceans and Comrades Marathons that she has trouble believing in her own success. Now she must decide between competing in the ultramarathons or attempting to break the 2:21 world record for a standard marathon, held by Norway's Ingrid Christensen.
I'd love to go overseas. That really is my ultimate aim. I think if I had to try and break the world record marathon, it would be overseas. It's my dream to go over there. I know it's very difficult for South African athletes to go overseas. Especially with me, I've really got an Afrikaans surname and I've got no foreigners in my family. I can get hold of a passport. So if I had to go overseas, it'll probably be done very deviously. In fact, that very few people will know about it, and I'll suddenly be over there and enter a marathon with as little public knowledge, press knowledge as possible. And I'd go over there and finally run against the people that I've always dreamt about running against, the so-called best.